London is still awake when the mail train begins to fill. At Euston, bags arrive from other trains and from sorting offices across the city. They are lifted, counted, carried, and passed into railway vans whose interiors look less like passenger compartments than narrow working rooms. There are no upholstered seats waiting for travelers. There are sorting benches beneath rows of pigeonholes, with hooks for mailbags and wooden surfaces polished by repeated use, and beyond the windows a railway preparing to disappear into the dark. Tonight, the post office itself will move. While most of Britain sleeps, letters will be sorted inside a train running north through the night. At selected points, mail can even be exchanged without bringing the train to a halt. The work depends on rhythm. The rhythm repeats in a simple sequence. Read the address, choose the correct division, place the letter, fill the pigeonhole, tie the bundle, open the next bag, and prepare for the next exchange before beginning again. Outside, signals change and stations pass. Inside, the same small movements continue beneath the lamps. We are not here to race the train. We are here to understand the system that allowed a post office to keep working while the ground beneath it moved. The doors close, the platform begins to slide away, and the night mail goes north. The idea is older than the world we have entered. Britain's first experimental railway post office ran in 1838 between Birmingham and Warrington. The experiment showed that letters did not have to wait for a train journey to finish before sorting could begin. That changed the meaning of travel time. A stationary sorting office uses tables, frames, bags, clerks, and routes. A traveling post office carries much of that logic onto the railway. Instead of treating the hours between cities as dead time, the post office turns those hours into working time. Letters loaded in London can be rearranged while they are already moving toward the north. Mail collected farther along the line can enter the same process. Bags for particular destinations can be prepared before the train reaches the places where they must leave the system. By the later 19th century, traveling post offices had become an established part of Britain's railway mail network. Some were special trains devoted to mail. Others were sorting carriages attached to passenger services. Their schedules, routes, staffing, circulation lists, rolling stock, and exchange apparatus became subjects of detailed post office administration. The idea was simple, but the execution was not, because an ordinary sorting office stays still while this one sways beneath the worker's feet. Step farther into the carriage. Along one side is a sorting bench. Above it, pigeonholes rise across much of the wall. Each opening represents somewhere the mail may need to go: a town, a district, a connecting route, or another stage in the postal network. On the opposite side, space is used for bags and the equipment needed to manage them. Hooks keep sacks where workers can reach them. The arrangement is narrow because railway space is narrow. Nothing can spread endlessly across a room. Every movement has to fit between the walls of the carriage. The Science Museum's surviving TPO material shows the basic logic clearly. The exact vehicle changes across decades in railway companies, but the principle remains recognizable. Work faces one wall, mail waits along the other, and the aisle between them becomes the artery of the carriage. There is another difference from an ordinary office. The floor never fully settles. The train rolls, leans, vibrates, and crosses joints in the track. A worker learns to stand with that movement rather than fight it. The body adapts to the motion, with one hand steadying while the other keeps sorting. A letter arrives in the hand as a small decision. Its destination has to be recognized quickly enough to keep the flow moving. The work is not simply alphabetizing. Postal sorting follows routes, because a town is not only a place on a map. It belongs to a circulation pattern. A line, a connection, a bag, a later office, another train. The sorter therefore carries a practical geography in memory, until addresses begin to feel like movements through the network. A name written in ink may imply a particular pigeonhole now and a particular mailbag later. The interior of the carriage is a compressed version of the country outside. Dozens of destinations can sit within arm's reach. As the train progresses, the useful arrangement can change. Mail that mattered earlier may have left the train. Other destinations become more immediate. Labels and working positions can be adjusted to match the route ahead. This is one reason the TPO is so suited to repetitive work. Every letter is different, but the action is nearly the same. Read the address, recognize the route, place the letter, reach back, and begin again. Thousands of individual journeys pass through those few repeated movements. Eventually, a pigeonhole becomes crowded. Loose letters cannot remain there forever. They are gathered into a bundle. The bundle can then be transferred toward the mailbag prepared for the appropriate destination or onward route. The bag is more than a container. It is a temporary boundary in the system. Once mail enters the correct bag, many separate letters can move as one unit. This is how scale becomes manageable. The railway does not need to understand each envelope. The railway carries bags, while the sorter performs the translation between the individual address and the larger transport system. One letter becomes part of a bundle. Bundles become part of a bag. Bags become part of the train's load. And the train becomes part of a national network of stations, offices, connecting services, road journeys, and local deliveries. Inside the carriage, however, none of that scale is visible at once. There is only the next handful of letters. That keeps the work human. A traveling post office is not silent, because steel wheels are always running over rail beneath the working room. The body of the carriage responds to curves and points. Doors, fittings, hanging bags, paper, and wooden furniture all have their own small noises. The railway provides a low, continuous foundation. Above it comes the dry movement of paper. A bundle placed on wood, a bag shifted on its hook, footsteps adjusting to the sway. Occasionally, the rhythm changes as the train passes through a station or prepares for an exchange, and then it settles again. It is the steadiness of a machine carrying a workplace through darkness. The workers do not need the train to be quiet. They need its movement to become familiar. After enough miles, motion becomes part of the room. The most unusual part of the TPO system waits along the side of the carriage. Mail does not always need a station stop. Special line-side equipment allows bags to be exchanged while the train continues moving. The principle developed over many years, but the mature system uses equipment on both railway and carriage. Outgoing mail is positioned so that it can leave the train at an exchange point. Incoming mail waits beside the line on apparatus, designed to present the bag safely to the moving vehicle. The TPO carries a net or receiving apparatus that can be deployed for collection. As the train reaches the exchange point, the system brings two moving worlds together for an instant. The railway continues forward as the bag changes possession. Then the apparatus is brought back in and the mail enters the carriage. The Science Museum preserves surviving exchange equipment from British TPO operation, including the carriage apparatus and line-side collection post. This is the mechanical heart of the episode. Not speed for its own sake, but coordination between the train, the trackside apparatus, the mailbag, the worker, and the timing of the exchange. Each part has to be in the right place. An exchange begins before the actual moment beside the track. A bag must be ready. Its contents must belong to the correct destination. Its fastening must be secure. The equipment must be prepared. The worker responsible for the exchange needs to know where the point lies along the route. The approaching location changes the atmosphere inside the carriage, but only briefly. Sorting does not become theatrical, and the procedure simply narrows to the next required actions. A bag that has been accumulating for miles is now complete. It moves from storage toward the exchange equipment. Hands that have spent the last hour handling paper now handle canvas, straps, and metal fittings. Outside the window, the landscape remains dark as a signal passes, and trackside structures become more frequent. The exchange point is approaching. Then the prepared bag leaves the train. An incoming bag may be caught almost immediately afterward, depending on the arrangement at that point. The impact is physical and should not be romanticized into silence, but it is brief. The apparatus does its work, and the carriage returns to sorting. The incoming bag has already traveled through another part of the postal system. Someone on the ground prepared it. Someone brought it to the exchange point. Someone mounted it on the line-side apparatus. Now it has entered the moving office. The bag is taken from the receiving equipment and brought into the working space, where it can be opened and its contents become a new series of decisions. The familiar sorting rhythm begins again. This is what makes the TPO different from a simple mail train. A mail train transports post. A traveling post office processes it. The system does not merely carry the network through the night. It changes the mail while moving. Every successful exchange adds new material to the work. Every completed bag removes sorted material from the carriage. The load is constantly reorganized, so the train is never simply full or empty. Mail is always flowing through the system. The best-known surviving film record of this world is Night Mail, produced by the General Post Office Film Unit, and released in 1936. The film follows the traveling post office service from London Euston toward Glasgow, and shows both railway operation and postal work. It became famous far beyond the postal service, but for us, its value is more practical. It preserves the appearance and choreography of the system. Workers sort letters at the frames, prepare mailbags, and operate the exchange equipment as part of the same overnight system. Railway staff and postal staff become parts of the same overnight operation. Some interior filming was staged for the camera rather than captured entirely inside a moving carriage, so the film must be used carefully as evidence. But the workers, equipment, and operating procedures it depicts belong to the real TPO world. We do not need to borrow the film's poetry. The machinery of the service is already enough. The postal train does not work alone. At major stations, other services feed mail into it. Elsewhere, bags leave for connecting routes. On the ground, postal workers prepare line-side exchanges. Railway signalmen regulate the movement of trains. Station staff handle loads while sorting offices farther away continue processing what the TPO sends onward. This is why the night mail can feel both enclosed and enormous. The viewer remains inside a narrow wooden carriage, yet every pigeonhole points somewhere beyond it. The walls contain a network that extends across Britain. A letter for one town may leave at the next exchange. Another may remain aboard much longer. Another may be destined for a connection that carries it away from the main line before morning. No individual worker sees the whole network at once. The system works because responsibilities overlap. One person sorts, another prepares bags, another handles the exchange equipment, and someone on the ground waits beside the line. Someone elsewhere receives what has been sent. Continuity is created by handoffs. As the hours pass, the carriage changes subtly. Some bags have gone while others have arrived, and certain pigeonholes empty only to fill again. The same bench that looked crowded earlier becomes organized in a different way. Outside, the country is darker and quieter than London. The train may pass towns without stopping. Windows become rectangles of black glass, occasionally interrupted by station lamps, signal lights, or the pale shape of a platform. Inside, the work remains close and tactile: paper, wood, canvas, and metal, with the railway moving underneath everything. There is no need to invent a dramatic countdown. Postal work has its own pressure, but the Somnora version can remain faithful without turning that pressure into spectacle. The workers know the route, and the sequence is practiced, because a good system reduces surprise. And as the night deepens, procedure becomes calming because it is understood. The TPO solves several problems at once. It transports mail, sorts it, and reorganizes it while distance is being covered. And at certain points it exchanges mail without requiring the entire train to stop. Each improvement saves time not by making one worker impossibly fast, but by overlapping processes. Movement and sorting happen together, Travel and preparation happen together. The bag for a destination can be assembled before the train reaches the point where that bag must leave. Incoming mail can enter the workflow while the journey continues. This is industrial efficiency at a human scale. No computer is deciding where the letter goes. No barcode is reading the envelope. Knowledge lives in people, labels, schedules, pigeonholes, bags, and practiced routines. The infrastructure is mechanical, while the intelligence is distributed among workers. That combination gives the TPO its character. Toward morning, darkness begins to loosen. The window no longer reflects only the carriage interior as fields become visible, roof lines appear, and signals stand against a lighter sky. Inside, the final hours still require the same discipline. Letters cannot be left unsorted simply because dawn has arrived. Bags still need the correct contents, and the remaining connections still matter, but the emotional tone changes. A workplace that seems sealed inside the night begins to reconnect with the landscape. The railway has carried the sorting office hundreds of miles from where it began. The bench is the same. The pigeonholes are the same. The workers' movements are the same. Only the world outside has changed. Night has become morning while the system continued. A traveling post office is a strange idea, only until its logic becomes visible. Put the sorting office on the railway. Use the journey as working time. Arrange the carriage around routes. Turn letters into bundles and bundles into bags. Exchange some of those bags without stopping and continue north. By morning, the train has done more than transport mail. It has transformed it, turning addresses into routes and loose letters into organized loads. Bags have entered and left the moving office. And thousands of small decisions have been made inside a narrow carriage while Britain slept. The most impressive part is not the speed, but the continuity. The wheels keep turning, the sorting continues. One bag arrives and another leaves. A letter crosses from one hand to one pigeonhole and begins the next stage of its journey. Outside, the first daylight settles over the railway. Inside, one final bundle is tied. The carriage sways gently beneath your feet, and the traveling post office continues toward morning.